I know my chance with her is blown, but my mouth gets carried away. I'm tongue-tied, 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 tongue-tied. I get tongue-tied.
This guy's question was very simple. He said, so I just finished your video about how to text a girl when she's out of town. So the backstory, I am with this girl for 3 months. And by the way, I tell you guys all the time, on average, it takes a woman 2 to 3 months to solidify her feelings for you enough to where she wants to be your girlfriend. So by the 3-month mark, she should be in that 80 to 90% range of like for you, to where she wants to be around you all the time and wants to hear from you quite often. But anyway, so he says yesterday she took a trip to the USA. So he's not out of town. Took the trip to the USA with her sister to see her family for 2 weeks. We had a very, very good date the day before she left. And I told her, enjoy your trip. Don't feel restricted to text me, which is good. Like, and by the way, guys, you don't necessarily have to verbalize that. Like, you don't have to say to a woman, hey, you're going to be gone, but if you don't want to text me, that's fine. Like, you don't necessarily have to verbally say that. It's more of like the feeling tone. You want to give her the aura that whether she contacts you or not, you're not going to be bothered. You're going to be totally fine. You're going to be understanding that she's out of town, and that if you hear from her, great. If you don't, it's understandable. But you don't have to necessarily say that verbally to the woman. In this case, he did. Again, doesn't seem to hurt anything, so it's totally fine. Continuing, he says, so he said that thing, and then he says, she texted me when she arrived and asked me how my day went, blah, blah, blah. And I got your video on that topic on YouTube and saw your advice. And my advice, which I said earlier, was that, when she's on vacation, just don't be stressed out. Don't be stressed out if she's not texting you a whole lot. It's Christmas, it's vacation. Your expectation should not be to hear from her. Now, if you happen to hear from her, that's fantastic. But again, I just don't want you guys to get butthurt by these new women that you're dating when they don't suddenly aren't texting you when they're on vacation or out of town. So anyway, he says, so my question is, how can I say your line, quote, enjoy your time with family and going to catch you when you return, without looking weird? Because day before her trip, I was like, text me whenever you have free time. He said, I think your advice is better than my option to text every day. Still need some space for her to miss me and for me to work on myself. And so here's the thing, right? The thing about texting is that ultimately, when a woman starts to have strong like for you, you'll notice she's going to be the one reaching out more than you are, ideally, okay? If you're not the guy that's trying to text her and call her every day, what you'll find is that women of their own accord, they want to be around you and hear from you. They will just naturally start to text you more. And that's absolutely great. Now, in reference to the whole thing about texting her every day, I just need to clarify that. What I mean is that you as the guy should not be initiating text every day. At the point where a woman's 3 months in with you and she likes you a lot, you're going to notice that she's not going to be able to help herself. She's going to want to hear from you every day. And so what that means is, more often than not, she's going to be the one reaching out to you on a daily basis. That this does not mean that you have to constantly be texting her back and forth all the time, but it does mean that when she's reaching out, it's perfectly fine to respond to her. You can determine the time frame at which you do respond, and actually knowing how the time frame works is going to be a better way to still give that impression that you're not just easily accessible to talk to all the time, but that you want to hear from her. Perfect example. Let's say she texts you at like 9 in the morning and says, hey, man, I had a great time with my family last night. We did such and such activity. It was so fun. And she texts you at 9 o'clock, right? Well, for that first text, you could wait until like 12 o'clock to hit her back and be like, oh, hey, that's so great. I'm glad you're having a good time. What else has been going on? Now, at that point, if you guys have a little bit of back and forth banter, it's totally fine. And it's not going to be seen as you being a try-hard or you being a person that just sat by your phone because you waited 3 hours to respond back to that first text. And at that point, if you respond back to her later on, and then you're doing more back and forth texts that are like, within the span frame of time of like a minute or two, then that's going to be totally fine. Now, at the same time, as you're doing those texts, recognize that texting in itself is actually a really weird form of communication, because there's really it's not like a letter or like when you're in a conversation with somebody in person where you can say, well, I got to go, bye. Texting is one of those things that eventually one of you two have to just stop. Because it sounds weird through text to say, well, I got to go now. I'll talk to you later. Bye. That just seems weird. So it's perfectly fine if you guys are texting back and forth and then she says something like, yeah, man, I'm just having such a great time. I'm so glad to hear from you. At that point, you could just stop the conversation. You could just not answer back and then wait till the next day when maybe you find a meme on the internet or something exciting happens to you where you're like, oh, something, whatever. Or you can wait till the next day until she texts you again, because women will oftentimes do that. And again, it's just recognizing that texting is a weird form of communication in general. So you don't have to follow the normal rules of ending or starting or stopping. But you also don't want to be the guy that is doing the thing of making the conversation go too long. Like, if she starts it, that's great. But at some point, you ideally want to be the one to stop it before she does. So, again, she's texting you or whatever, you're texting back and forth. She says something that seems like it's just kind of like a, emoji or something that's not really something that has to further a conversation. You can just stop and then wait again till the next day to either you find something funny to send her or she decides to text you. But don't think you got to be like a robot of like, you don't have to send her a thing saying, thanks, glad to hear from you, but I'll hear from you more when you get back. Like, we're not trying to completely say to her, like, I don't want to hear from you ever, because we want her to continue the action of hitting you up. The thing is, as the guy, you shouldn't be the one to consistently be trying to initiate with her when she's on vacation, because you ideally should be doing other things in your own environment. And that's more appealing to women. Her having the idea that you're possibly doing other things that are keeping you busy from hearing from her, and then her being able to actually get a response from you, that's going to have more of an effect than her thinking, he's going to be there when I hit him up whenever. He's always going to be able to answer my text and calls. And that's the thing that can turn women off and actually cause them to start to lose interest, okay? So that's what I mean. Again, texting is a really weird situation. That's why I tell you guys, on average, texting kills attraction. And what I mean is that if you're the one that's consistently initiating text every single time, it starts to get boring, predictable, and eventually she'll start to lose interest. But a woman that's 3 months in with you that has 80 to 90% interest, yeah, you're going to hear from her quite often. It doesn't mean you have to always answer back right away. You can actually have more of an effect by delaying your response a little bit, but you can still respond within the same day and it'd be totally fine. So hopefully, Guy, this answers your question.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.